Hello, World Wide Web. This is David Hickson, licensed professional counselor intern, and today is the first part of a series of videos in which I will explain one pathway to healing in psychotherapy, and specifically how it relates to depression. What we're going to be looking at today is interpersonal neurobiology, or IP&B for short. Interpersonal neurobiology is a new emerging field in psychology that has come about over the past 20 years or so. And it attempts to integrate brain science with existing psychotherapy techniques like psychodynamic theory or cognitive behavioral therapy. So for 100 years or so that Western psychotherapy has been around, we haven't really had a great idea of what's going on inside the brain. So because of some new technology, we are able to look inside the brain and make some good guesses and some good hypotheses about what a happy or a normal brain looks like. So interpersonal neurobiology is taking some of this brain data and bringing it into these existing techniques so that we're more effective as clinicians and so that we are treating people in a more complete and holistic way. So 3 things we're going to keep in mind about interpersonal neurobiology today. The first is the interpersonal dimension of it. It means that part of mental health, part of being happy, is having interpersonal relationships with other people. And we can find evidence for the importance of this in our evolutionary strategy. So humans have been around for about 200 to 300,000 years. And during our entire course of our human history, we've been in small groups. We've lived in very small groups of people generally, and it's gotten bigger over time. So we know that this is very important to our species as a survival strategy. We're not the biggest, the fastest, or the strongest, but we can cooperate and communicate really well. So we can't escape this reality of our DNA and of our brains. So we know that the interpersonal dimension is going to be part of a healthy, happy lifestyle. Secondly, the neurobiological element. We need to know that the mind and the self, what we identify with in daily life, comes out of the actions and the chemistry of the brain. So that's less important for today, but it's going to set us up later on down the road to have a little bit better understanding of how the brain works and how it shapes our thoughts, our behaviors, and our feelings. And the third thing is the mental health definition of interpersonal neurobiology. So interpersonal neurobiology would define mental health having these 5 broad features, and that is flexibility, adaptability, coherence, energized, and stability. FACES is the acronym for that. So these are the 5 features of mental health that we're going for. How do we get there? Step 1 is what we're talking about today. So the most important part is step 1 because everything else in interpersonal neurobiology builds off of that. And that is what we call integration of consciousness, or the ability to differentiate parts of our awareness, the ability to compassionately observe our own mind, meta-awareness, or mindfulness. If anybody's done yoga or meditation, you might already have some practice at integration of consciousness, meaning if you've ever tried to stay focused on one particular object of your awareness, maybe just your breath, your sensation in your body, or sounds, you have practiced mindfulness or integration of consciousness. So the reason that this is important, integration of consciousness, is if we try to singularly focus on one thing at a time, we start to know the nature of our mind. And that is that it is crazy, that it is full of thoughts, evaluations, judgments, fantasies, fears. The list is endless for what the mind is capable of generating. Now, this is a real asset to us because we can come up with creative solutions to problems and dream and make these fantasies become reality. However, it can also be the root of our pain. So if we think about depression or anxiety as a exaggeration of certain tendencies, we can think of integration of consciousness as the ability to break unhealthy tendencies, right? So we could think of depression as like a ball of yarn, and this or a knot of yarn, and this knot has a bunch of different threads in it. And integration of consciousness can be thought of the unraveling of this knot one thread at a time. So we just pull one thread out, and in that way we gradually unravel the knot. And integration of consciousness does this very gradually, right? So we just start by focusing on maybe one memory that we have in psychotherapy, or we talk about our relationship with anger, maybe for a whole hour or for several hours or for several weeks at a time. And what we learn is that if we can pull each of these things out separately, we can differentiate each of them, we're then able to more effectively link them. And if you think of depression as this knot where everything's kind of tied together, but it's very messy and we don't understand the relationships between things, integration of consciousness allows us to focus on one specific aspect of at a time. And it also teaches us to ignore what's not important in the moment. So, in this way, we start to unravel our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and we gradually heal and are no longer depressed or anxious. And there's more to this, which we will cover in the next episode of this series. So I hope you enjoyed the first one, and look out for the next one. Thank you.